Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're kind of here coming at you with another edition of the Cons Cast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Code Vein. This weekend, we've had the network test event, which allowed a lot of people to get some hands-on time with Code Vein. And as a matter of fact, if you got to play the game, I'm very curious to know what is your opinion on what you experienced. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What aspects did you like the most? What aspects didn't you like? I'm just really curious because I have a couple of things that I want to talk about in regards to Code Vein. This, however, was not the first time that I got to play the game. I already played it back at an event in San Francisco. Bandai Namco flew me out so that I could check out the game, do an interview with the game's producer to tell you guys my opinions on it, and I published like 3 videos on it, talking about the gameplay mechanics, how I felt about the gameplay itself, and the interview with the producer. All of that stuff is available in the channel if you guys are curious. Today's video is going to be more about talking how the gameplay felt now that I've gotten to play way more than I played previously, because naturally at the event I only got to play around 2 hours or so. This time I got to really sink my teeth into it. We played and live streamed it for about 5.5 hours. You guys can check out that live stream if you want to get like a good chunk of gameplay. Pretty much all of the content that was available in the network test, we completed everything, did all of the bosses, played around with a lot of the classes. I don't think we did all of the classes, but we tested out quite a few of the classes that were available, and we even combined some of those classes, which is something that I want to talk about. But real quick, it's like, from a visual standpoint, I like the art style of the game. I know that it's not going to be appealing to anyone. A lot of people are calling this anime Souls because, you know, it's got a gameplay vibe very similar to Dark Souls. It's got a lot of the same stuff that Dark Souls does, but it also adds its own nuances in there, like the focus system, the blood code system, the different skills that you have available to you. I feel like it does a lot of stuff differently from Souls, where it is its own thing, even if it is heavily inspired by Dark Souls. As a matter of fact, the word Dark Souls was even talked about during my interview with the game producer, so it's not like they're shy about the fact that they're doing a game that is inspired by Dark Souls, okay? This is not something that the developers are trying to hide. But anyway, again, I like the visuals. I like the animations. There is one thing about the animations and the combat that does bother me, and I talked about this in my previous videos, which is the fact that the weight in the combat, I feel that there are a lot of moves that don't convey the proper weight of the weapons, particularly when you equip some of the beefier weapons like the Zweihanda that was available in the demo. I don't know if I have any footage to show you of it, but basically the way that my character swung that Zweihanda, I was like, wow, doesn't feel like the impact is there. And I know that this was a bit of a complaint that I had in regards to God Eater 3 as well, and a lot of the same people that worked on God Eater 3 are also working on Code Vein, so that's one of the things that doesn't surprise me. But at the same time, that wasn't really a deal breaker for me, because I was just having so much fun min-maxing my character with different skills from different blood codes and experiencing the other aspects of combat beyond just like the issue that I had with the weight of the feeling of weight of it, right? Like messing around with the backstab system, the Iker system, the different spells that you could have, the different blood codes, which, by the way, for those of you that don't know about Code Vein, the whole blood codes thing, it's very much like RPG classes, right? Instead of RPG classes, they call them blood codes. And the thing about it is that you can swap between these blood codes whenever you want. Like in the middle of a boss fight, no problem. Swap your blood codes away. You can swap from being a caster to being a fighter. No problem, no penalties. Because, you know, sometimes you put the stats in a character in a certain way that then it's like, oh, but now I want to be a fighter instead of a mage, and it doesn't work because I have mage stats. Doesn't work like that in Code Vein at all, because your stats, you have your base stats as you level them up, but then they get modified by Blood Veil, and you don't actually level like individual stats, you just level like your overall stats, you level up. And then when you apply Blood Veils, they change, they mess around with your base stats to adapt them to, you know, specific things that you might want for a blood code. So basically the only thing that you have to swap in order to be effective at different blood codes is optimize your gear. And in some cases, not even that, because you can have blood codes that work well with the same gear. So that gives you really a lot of character customization, which was one of my favorite aspects of the game because I started the game and we played around as a little bit of a melee. Then I swapped into more of a hybrid caster mode. Then we went back into melee because we wanted to get some skills from a blood code to apply to a different blood code, which is another thing that you can do. So say, for instance, to simplify the example here a little bit, you have the fighter class and the mage class, right? But there's a spell from the mage class or a passive skill from the mage class that you really like, and you would like to have that in your fighter class. Well, Code Vein is the game that lets you do that, depending on how extreme the skill is. It's not like you're going to be getting, like, say, for instance, the magician has like, the death ray, which is the very biggest spell of the magician, right? You're not going to be able to put that into a fighter because that would just be way too out there. Actually, you might be able to if you find the correct blood veil. I'm not 100% sure on that. Don't quote me. But either way, it's going to be a lot harder for you to get like the magician's death ray. But say, for instance, if the magician has like ice armor or something like that, and you're like, man, I want to have that in my fighter, that should be a fairly easy spell for you to master and then bring on to your fighter blood code. I did a whole bunch of that, and I got, like, for instance, I got something that buffed my weapon with poison from the Ranger blood code, brought that over into the Prometheus blood code, which was the blood code that I was using. I also brought, what was it? I think it was Precision, which was a buff that made me stagger enemies more easily from the Berserker class. I mastered that with the Berserker class. Again, brought it over to the Prometheus class, which was the class that I was playing. And that enabled me to basically combine a bunch of buffs from different classes and make this super powered melee class with buffs. And he was really a beast at dishing out damage. And at the same time, he could also cast a couple of ranged spells if I wanted to because of all the other classes that I had played before. At the same time, I also played classes that had like these support spells, not support spells, these actually offensive spells. And then I went into the caster and brought, these offensive spells from all of these other different classes into my caster class, which basically meant that the caster class that I was playing at the time had access to more spells that I could equip. That was also a lot of fun. You can also bring in passive skills and a bunch of other stuff. But basically, that type of character customization and min-maxing is something that I really like doing in games of this genre. And the fact that there is no penalty, you can swap everything on the fly so long as you have the materials and the gear to really support those playstyles is just a really, really positive aspect of Code Vein, and probably something that I'm going to be playing around with for quite a bit. Beyond that, though, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people finished the main story mission and then they went into the depths mission. They were like, holy crap, difficulty is insane. That was intentional. The depths was something that was completely overtuned for the characters of the beta, so that people could really play around with different builds and min-max and farm and do that kind of stuff in the depths. That was the intention of that level. It wasn't supposed to be like, oh, this is the natural progression. You go from this easy stuff that you were just doing into this thing that seems damn near impossible. So just keep that in mind. If you're struggling in the depths, you are supposed to. As a matter of fact, I remember back when I was at the event, the word was like, hey, if you guys actually managed to kill a single boss in the depths, let us know. We're actually kind of curious because, most people hadn't even killed a single boss. I ended up not killing a single boss at the event, but that's because I was focused on, figuring out the mechanics and all that stuff because, you could kill bosses. It just takes a bit of farming, a little bit of optimizing your gear, playing around with your different skills and whatnot. Hopefully some of you guys got to do that. I saw that a lot of streamers were really putting in a lot of hours. I think Kanta was even playing it just a couple of hours ago before I started recording this video. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff to do and experiment with in the depths, and I thought that was fun. One question that some people also had after playing through the depths is like, oh, that almost looks like a procedural generated map. I asked about that specifically with the game producer. That is not the case. All of the maps are handmade, and they, at the time at least, they didn't have any procedural generation content in mind. Although, you never know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, my overall take from this particular network test was I was even more positive than before because I was already interested in the game. Again, my only complaint is the weight of the combat. Beyond that, I like all of the other systems. I like the companion system, but particularly the blood codes, the customization of the character, and the character creator. Holy crap. If you guys just watch the start of that live stream where I go through some of the features in the character creator, it is insane what you can do in that thing. Like one of the characters in there, like he has an afro. And when you go through the hairstyles, you'll notice there is no afro here. How do they have a character with an afro when there is no afro haircut in the game files? Well, then you go and you select that character and you can go like and check the details of the character creator and how they did it. And like they wrapped a bunch of like this furry bracelet that exists in the character creator. You can put a furry bracelet on your character. So they grabbed a bunch of those furry bracelets and they put them on the character's head and they made an afro out of that by resizing them. And I was just like, what? The amount of stuff you can do in that character creator is really impressive. One of the things that I did, for instance, which is a lot simpler, but like, I wear glasses. So usually if I have the option to make characters that I play in a video game wear glasses, I'll try to go for that. Even though there's not a whole lot of glasses in video games that resemble mine. Usually people go for more flashy glasses or sunglasses or stuff like that. So I put a pair of glasses that look somewhat similar to mine. I was like, they're a little bit smaller. So you can actually go into the character creator, increase the size of the glass. You can make them ridiculous if you want. You can make them just like freaking clown glasses, and you can just have a character walking around with clown glasses. That's an option. But either way, just the simple fact that I went in there, was able to not only just change the size of the glasses, but change the positioning of the glasses to actually be something realistic. Because usually video games, whenever you put glasses onto a character, they're like hovering in front of your character, like they're not really realistic in terms of the placement of the glasses. And I was able to like really edge it in there, and I'm like, no, now we got to rotate a little bit down, now put it a little bit closer. It's just like the level of detail. And I'm just talking about something simple as putting glasses on a character. You can imagine, you can like, I want my character to have a backpack. I want my character to have like a heart symbol on his chest. I'll make anything that you can think of, almost, you can do to your character in there, except make him look non-anime, because all the characters look anime as hell. But either way, I had a lot of fun with the network test. I'm really curious to hear from you guys what you thought about it. I am definitely going to be playing Code Vein when it comes out. Hopefully it doesn't come out in September, though. I really hope it doesn't, because you guys know there's this other game that we got to play in September. But other than that, I'll probably play it at release. But yep, Code Vein, looking pretty good. Wish the combat had more weight to it, but other than that, super solid. Had a ton of fun. How did you guys feel about it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Peace out, everybody. Stay strong, and may your shields never break.